Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and I am the host of this podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. I am also a newly minted USA Today bestselling author of the novel Blank. I've created a whole community of book lovers around this podcast, a publishing company, reading retreats, a bookstore, and more. Learn more at zibbymedia.com or follow me on social at Zibby Owens or join the community at Zibby Readers. Dr. Mary Claire Haver is the author of The New Menopause, Navigating Your Path Through Hormonal Change with Purpose, Power, and Facts. This was a live from Zibby's Bookshop event, so you will hear lots of people clapping and laughing and all that stuff in the background. I hope it doesn't bother you. We had a great event. It was sold out. Dr. Mary Claire has over 1 million followers and passionate following and has changed my life. I went online, I ordered her supplements, I emailed 5 doctors. Anyway, it changed my life, and hopefully this conversation will change yours. And it doesn't have to be because you're of a certain age. The things that she's talking about start in your 30s, so get going. Here's her bio. Mary Claire Haver, MD, is a board-certified OBGYN, a certified culinary medicine specialist, a certified menopause provider, and the founder of Mary Claire Wellness, a private medical practice that focuses on women in midlife. Her best-selling book, The Galveston Diet, is based on the groundbreaking nutritional protocol she developed as an online subscriber program for women going through perimenopause and menopause, and now The New Menopause, at the time where we recorded this, had been at number 1 on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list for 2 weeks straight. She lives in Galveston, Texas. I'm Zibby Owens. It's nice to meet you. Welcome to Zibby's Bookshop. We are so excited to have Dr. Mary Claire Haver here. This is her second week at number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. That's amazing. So I'm sure she needs no introduction, but is the foremost expert on menopause, changing life for all of us. Who has had their lives changed already? Oh my gosh. Amazing. Okay, Dr. Haver, kick it off. What does everyone need to know, and why did you decide to dedicate your life to this and write a book about it?
So I was a basic OBGYN, very happy for most of it, in my practice, delivering babies and doing pap smears and, taking care of us through multiple phases of life. I didn't have a ton of menopausal patients when I was younger, getting started. You tend to have babies with your patients and we're aging together. So we're all kind of, in general, going through this phase of life together. And I was telling them things like, oh, just work out more and eat less. And, when they'd come in complaining of weight gain, and I was really terrified of hormone therapy. I didn't understand that the Women's Health Initiative had been walked back. So many of the, claims had been overestimated and the actual protective benefits had been, undersold. And I was going through a really rough time in my own life when I was going through menopause. I'd lost my brother, and I was grieving, and I was having horrific joint pain and night sweats and brain fog and not able to sleep and sleep disruption. And I gaslit myself. So I was grieving, and I just kind of attributed everything, which there was definitely a part of it, but it took me months and realizing my grief was getting better, that I was still feeling horrible and not sleeping. And when the hot flashes were just unbearable, I kind of treated hormone therapy like I treated an epidural, for myself. Like, we'll see how we do, and the act of getting an epidural was like throwing in the towel. Like, I wasn't strong enough, and it was the best freaking thing I've ever done in my life, if you've ever had one. So yeah, I was 3 centimeters, by the way. So 3 when I got my epidural. Like, you weren't supposed to get it till 4, but we lied. The nurse lied for me, and then we got it, the anesthesiologist to come in. So that was me. So just that whole experience and transition, I really, really struggled with the 20-pound weight gain through the menopause transition. It was all in my midsection. I had been a thin person with thin privilege most of my adult life, outside of pregnancy and college stuff, and could not get the weight off. And that was, if anybody ever read Galveston Diet, that was part of the initial part of my journey. But so I kind of took to social media to talk about that experience. And then that led to more and more questions about menopause in general. So instead, I'm a curious person. So instead of being dismissive, I was curious and I would go and look things up and be like, wait, frozen shoulder actually is related to menopause. So I'd find an article and post about it, and a million people would go crazy on the internet. So most of what is in this book, like in the toolkit in the last section, was informed by you guys telling me what you were going through and the symptoms that you had that led me to go find research to support what you were saying. And the saddest part, really the crux of why I wrote this book is no one taught me this. And I know a lot of stuff. I'm really smart. And no one in the American Board of OB-GYN that recertifies us every year was saying, hey, this new menopause information is important. We spend a third of our lives as menopausal people. And it's like our value in medicine plummets after reproduction. I love my children. I loved being pregnant and the whole experience and, the miscarriages. And that was such a beautiful part of my life. But I'm not dead, and I want, and I thought as soon as Galveston Diet was birthed, I was immediately pregnant again, trying to get this book into the world because that is what I felt like. Everyone was telling me, on social, write a book. There's too many videos for me to go through. Can't you just get it all together in one section? And so, very long answer to, your very simple question.
No, that's what it's for. That's good. I went through the line really quickly before and asked what the best part of this stage of life was. And I would say 75% of this tiny little sample size here said not caring as much what people think. What does that have to do with menopause? Tell me what the link there.
I think, and this is opinion, but just talking to so many people, and now I have a menopause clinic, and we get to this point in our lives where if we don't take care of ourselves, we're going to fall apart. And you learn how to prioritize. I have boundaries now that I've never had in my life, and I've never had a healthier relation, it's so healthy, and I prioritize my own health. I'm putting my own oxygen mask on for my kids can make a meal, they can whatever. I mean, I love my children, but I just, and you're you have a shit factor, and the weight of other people's expectations just kind of goes out the window. So, and that's really been the best part. I mean, I'll be 56 in a couple of months. I'm the happiest I've ever been. This is the best part of my life. And I am healthier, better relationships, wealthier, better entrepreneur, badass, and I couldn't have done this at 40. I wasn't in that place in my life where I could have made that happen. And I want that for everyone. And whatever that looks like for you, this doesn't have to be the end. And when I realized I was menopausal, it was the world was dark for a minute, I was not excited about it. I was like, oh my God, ew, and I thought, and that was based on the old menopause. And this is the new menopause. This is a celebration. This is the best time of our lives, but this is a biopsychosocial upheaval for us, for a lot of us in multiple different ways. And but we can take control of this. And hopefully this book will be a guidebook for you guys at this part of our lives.
I didn't know until I read the book that there was even such a thing called postmenopause that we should be aware was a thing. It was just perimenopause or menopause, ...
Right. Well, menopause medically is 1 day. The 1 year past your last menstrual period, that day is your menopause day. Happy birthday, And everything after that is postmenopause. And so forever, people only define menopause by having hot flashes and symptoms. But our bones are not doing well. Our muscles are starting to deteriorate forever. And, part of that is aging. Yes, we're all aging. But these things accelerate in menopause. And knowing this, and I just think menopause should be optional.
Have you figured out exactly how to do that?
There's some really so my daughter's here. Poor Maddie. Hi, she's 20. So my ovaries are dead, and so there's no way to resuscitate them. But I'm hopeful that for this generation, that they're working on pharmacology to extend the shelf life of the ovary. Not for pregnancy, I mean, maybe if you want that, but for enough estrogen production to continue to keep your bones, your brains, and your hearts strong.
So Hormone replacement therapy, as you mentioned, got such a bad rap for a while. But
Yeah.
in the book, you extol the benefits. Tell us why this is something we all should consider.
So I don't think every woman will choose it. But I think every woman deserves the conversation, and that's not what's happening in most of your offices that you go to when you're looking for care. You're being dismissed, denied, and it's really a lack of education in the medical training system. And that is where, on the advocacy level, this is where the menopause is working. It's to demand that the American Board, American College of OB/GYN, but this should not be dumped in the lap of the poor, busy OB/GYN. We got to deliver babies and do pap smears and all the things. This is an all medicine problem. This is internal medicine and surgery and orthopedics. And, so the menopause is made up of psychiatrists, cardiologists, all of us have bonded together saying this isn't right. And that we deserve more and better, and the funding and the research and the dollars and the brain power to come to us. So hormone therapy is simply replacing the hormones that your ovaries used to make. And why would we do that? Well, one, the acute symptoms, the hot flashes, the night sweats, the sleep disruption, the mental health changes, that stuff. So then we tamper down the immediate problem, and then you feel like you get your life back. Now we're going to try to protect you, the protective benefits, for the next 30, 40 years. So to keep your bones strong so you don't fall and break that hip and then you die, so that you have decrease your risk of dementia. But it turns out you don't have a heart attack. You have a heart attack later than you would have otherwise. So we're all going to die. We haven't fixed that problem yet. But the fact of the matter is, females live longer than males, 2 to 4 years, depending on which study you look at. We all know this. But we live 25% of our lives in poorer health than our male counterparts, and we're 3 to 4 times more likely to end up in a nursing home and requiring long-term care. So that last 10 years tends to be marked with deficiency and decline and you not being able to take care of yourself. And so when I have patients in clinic, that's what we're talking about. HRT is one tool in that toolkit, but it's not for everyone. So if that's not an option for you or you choose not to do it, then we have to double down on the other pillars of health. And that's what the toolkit is about: the nutrition, the movement, who's got a weighted vest? Yeah. So, little hacks and tools and things that we can do to stay healthy longer.
Is this not the time to reveal that I only walked 254 steps all of yesterday?
We all have that, we all have better days.
Did I even go to the bathroom? Oh my gosh, what did I do? Anyway, it was a rough day. Anyway, but I know that exercise is one of the things that you recommend. So noted. I was also really taken in the book when you said, just as you were starting to talk about now, about breaking your hip, that you can die. It can within 3 years.
The stats, if you're over the age of 65, which is 9 years away from me, okay, and I fall and break my hip, even with surgical repair, I have a 29% chance of death in the first year and within the first year. If I'm not healthy enough for surgery, which happens to a lot of women, go follow Vonda Wright, then I have a 79% chance of death. And that year is marked with horrific decline and horrific, just a really, really tough last year of my life. So we can prevent probably 50% of that with really aggressive, HRT is definitely preventative. And I don't know why the U.S. Preventative Health Task Force has not recommended it. And I think it is a crime. It is preventative for your bones to decrease the deterioration. But there's other things, the weighted vest, the resistance training, the protein, the creatine. We talk about all this in the book. These things we can make them much less likely with intervention, and the earlier you start, the better.
There's so many things, though, that are recommended for all of us. And we're all already busy doing all the things that we've been doing the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. So of all of these things to do and to start to make sure that we don't end a horrible rest of our lives, how do you know which ones to prioritize and which to make time for?
When I have a patient come in, we look at her. First of all, we look at her family history. What did your mom have? What did your aunts have? What is your grandmother's? What is genetics pointing you towards? And we start working on those things first, because it is overwhelming. The book's filled with 9,000 things and 100 supplements and whatever. But what is bothering you? What's keeping you up at night? What acute things do we need to address so you can sleep every night? So you can mentally function at work? So, we fix the acute first, and then we start looking down the road at what are your personal risk factors and how are we going to address those.
Okay, that works. We'll start there. And as you said before, you are not everyone's doctor. You are...
I'm not licensed in the state of California to practice medicine, so yeah.
How does it feel at this stage in your life, which you really at any stage in life, to become a celebrity in your field? What is that like to have like over 1 million followers hanging on your every word and knowing that you're like a leader in this whole thing? How do you feel?
So it's to be a social media person who becomes famous on that route. It's very lonely because I am literally sitting in my bed like this with a research article that stimulated me that morning, trying to like make something. So it's not like I'm in a room full of people or I'm on a stage talking. I mean, this is rare for me, really. Not this week or last week, but with a book launch. But in my everyday life on social, I am alone, doing this alone. And I'm sending stuff out into the world and I don't know what's going to happen to it. So it's a little bizarre, to like all of a sudden walk into a space or walk through the airport and people recognize you. So Annabeth probably does it all the time. So she's an actress. So, it's just kind of really surreal. And it's funny when my husband, he tells me, for all the women who were brave enough to walk up to you at the airport to say hello or, wherever we are, there's 10 more who are too scared to do it. So watch what you do in public, like people are watching you. So it is kind of surreal. And to have a book come out as the #1 bestseller in the New York Times, I was so anxious and nervous. My husband took me to Mexico. Plus, we were trying to detox from New York and all the pre-launch stuff we were doing. If you followed me, I was in Vegas and New York and then Chicago, and then I got to go home. Then I got sick. So we, I put a mask on and we went to the beach in Cancun. And it was there that I found out that, and it was my friends, the Holderness family. Kim Holderness texted me the secret list that comes out from New York Times. She's like, "Did you see it?" And I was sitting, having sushi with my husband at our hotel. And I saw it, and it was that was like the moment that I was like, it's making a difference, I don't care how many books we sell, but this is a message that this is important. This message is important. And that, the editors of the New York Times also thought it was important to put us on the list. So, but that we'd sold enough books to be able to do that.
It's amazing. What do you think your brother would say?
So, I've lost 3. So the oldest when I was 9. And I have very cloudy memories of him. And then Bob in 2015, and then Jude in 2020, and then my dad in 2021. And so a lot of this is all part of that journey as well. And I talk to them all the time. When I was in Mexico, sitting there oh my God, this happened, and wow. And, I could just feel them with me. And just so proud. Bob, the one who was over the top, and he would have been fussing over my hair and my makeup and my outfits, and, Jude would have just been screaming from the sidelines, and, my dad. So it just, I know that they're there, and I know that they're proud, and it's a little sad. So.
It's amazing what you're doing.
So, yeah.
It's amazing. Oh. So then how do you know? How do you know that it's not grief? I mean, I know this goes back to the beginning of the book, but, grief and trauma therapists would say that a lot of these things that you described are also grief. So how do we tease it all apart?
So when my patients come in, so for me,
it was... so sorry.
Oh,
I am so sorry for your loss.
It's okay. I knew the grief was getting better, but I was not getting better. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could finally, it took 6 months to realize that I wasn't crying every day on the drive home from work. And I didn't get therapy, and I didn't do all the emotional work throughs that I did later. But I didn't do the work I needed to do. But I was getting, I could feel the grief lifting, and I was still feeling so terrible. So, when patients come in, the first question, I'm like, when's the last time you felt good? Mm-hmm. And when's the last time you felt, because a lot of the times they're like, I just don't feel like myself. Mm-hmm. I can't put a finger on it, but I just don't feel like myself. Or I'm just not as resilient, or I'm more anxious, or I'm more irritable, or whatever. I'm like, let's go back to when you felt good. And when you had the world by the horns, and you could handle the stress. All the things were okay. And so we walk back to that moment, and I'll tell me what's happened since then. And we go through, has anything changed? I have the usual stress, nothing new. Or sometimes they have had something tremendous happen in their lives, and we kind of work through that. Hot flashes are pretty diagnostic. And that's kind of why we've always defined the severity of your menopause by your hot flashes, because we really can't blame it on anything else. A fever, you'll have you'll get hot. And tuberculosis, and we can rule that out pretty easy. So, but, there's very few things that give you the very characteristic hot flashes at this age. And that is why we've really defined menopause by that. And all 90% of the very small amount of research that we had has been in pharmacology to stop a hot flash and nothing else.
I wrote this book, Blank, about a menopausal woman who is not exactly me, but we are very similar. And in it, there's a store that she wants to open called Flash, where she would just hand out like chunky necklaces and like waistless dresses and towels. So if anybody wants to start that store, go ahead. You can take it.
Flash. That's cute.
What is your vision of a life where menopause is something we control, where we don't all have dementia and need that extra care being taken, that 30% of our lives or whatever? Paint a picture of that sort of Barbie-esque alternate world.
I dream about a time when everyone is menopause informed. Your partners, your loved ones, your whatever. We know much about menopause as we do about puberty. And everyone is prepared and they know what to look for, because what's happening now is the gaslighting and the being blindsided. And how many of you said, or who have read the book, said, I wish I would have known, I wish I would have had this at 35, so that there's this, everyone is prepared and ready. And, you know, it's not hitting you like a truck and you're so scared and you go through months or years of questioning yourself and your motivation. And is this really real, or am I going crazy? Which is what's happening now. And so you start getting screened at 35 at your healthcare provider. Are you having these symptoms? Just check these boxes. These are little sheets. All that we fill out, and we know the doctor. I have to fill it out too. You know what? There should be a perimenopause, menopause screening. Check. Easy. You know, because we don't have good blood work to diagnose perimenopause.
And you have it in there. You can just like rip it out.
Yeah, rip it out.
You'll have to get another book for every doctor appointment. So.
We have them online,
which
on
is
our
very
website,
smart too. Why not just like kick it? Why not just say, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna just go back to being like, what is driving you to do all of this?
Because I can make a difference in the world, and it's so powerful. And I just feel like this is where I'm meant to be. I mean, I loved delivering babies, and I swear to God, if they came between 8 and 5, I would probably still be an obstetrician. And my babies came in the middle of the night, so, you know, my doctors were as victim as much as anyone. But I am more effective as a healer now than I think I've ever been. I'm touching more lives now. And this is a generation that has been dismissed medically for most of our stuff, unless you have a heart attack or you break a leg, you know. And so just being able to have any influence in this space and realize I'm not smarter than it. I'm very smart, but I'm not, you know, like there's way smarter people getting PhDs and all that, you know, but like this is my gift. This is my unique set of gifts. I didn't predict it. I did not see it coming, but this is what happened. And I'm going to go with it. I'm going to run with it. So,
and we are all going to follow. Except maybe we're not going to go so fast. we're gonna be there with our weighted vests, dragging ourselves behind you. Anyway, does anybody feel better than when they got here? Yes? Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. If you love it, please leave a review and follow us on social at Zibby Owens and at Zibby Readers.